Let's start off with the materials. There's quite a few of them that you'll need for this project. I'm going to be using a 3.5mm hook. I wouldn't recommend anything larger than a 4mm hook. You can even choose a smaller hook and yarn size to make your petals even smaller. For the yarn, I'm using 100% acrylic yarn, and I've linked these on my Amazon storefront with the exact shade and brand that I used. And then if you're going to be making a flower hair clip with the smaller version of the lily, then you might also need something to stick the flower on. So I'm just using a regular alligator clip that I found on Amazon, but any old hair clip that you have at home could also work. Then of course you'll need scissors, and then it's also good to have a sewing needle. This can be plastic or metal, it doesn't really matter as long as your yarn can fit through the hole. This is so that we can weave in the ends. You're not really going to need this for anything else. And then when it comes to assembly, you're going to need a hot glue, or you can also use super glue. And then you'll also need floral wire. Floral wires are available at any craft store, but you can also find them on Amazon, which is where I got mine. I would recommend having 2 sizes, so something thinner that's very easily bendable like this. So these are some petals that I made with the wire in them. They just hold whatever shape I put them into. This is the smaller one. But the smaller wire that you're going to put in between these pieces is not necessary. So for example, over here for the flower hair clip, there is no wire in these petals and it still curls really beautifully. So if you can't find the floral wires, don't worry, you don't need to use them. And then apart from the thinner floral wire, I would also recommend that you have something that's a little bit thicker for the stem. And also for these little pieces in between the flower, I don't know what to call them. If you don't have a thicker floral wire, then for the stem, you can also use a regular craft stick. You can use a thin pencil. You can basically use any thin stick that you have. The only difference is that you won't be able to bend the stem to hold the shape that you want it to. Please keep in mind that these petals are a little bit time consuming and they might be a little bit tricky to get the hang of, but please bear with me and you'll be able to get it easily since it's quite repetitive. But before we get into the tutorial, here's a word from today's sponsor. If you're a crafter, small business owner, or just someone who's looking to create their dream website from scratch without any coding experience, I'm so excited to talk to you about today's sponsor, which is Universe. Universe is a drag and drop app for creating websites where you can hyper customize your site to match your creative vision. You can start with a blank template or pick from one of the many Universe templates. There's lots of different options to choose from, including mine. You can then make any kind of site you want with Universe. This can be a simple link list for your link in bio, or a full online shop where you can sell digital and physical products, or it can be an online portfolio or blog to display and showcase your work. Here's a look at my Universe site. I love the creative freedom I have with the drag and drop format and all the different customizations I can make, from fun doodles to adding shapes to customizing the text. The best part is that you can use Universe on your iPad, phone, or computer. I love using the app on my phone for on-the-go editing because I'm always changing one link to another, so it's really convenient that way. But then I'm also the kind of person who likes working on a much larger screen, so I love that you can use Universe on your computer as well. If you're in the US, the Universe sell block will enable you to start selling your creations and start making money in minutes. You can also use the download block to sell digital items. Although the sell and download blocks are US only, the PayPal block can be used by everyone to accept payments. Universe is free, but you can make the jump to Pro to start selling, remove Universe branding, get access to the code block, and unlock additional customization options. You can use the first link in my YouTube description to get 25% off your first year of Universe Pro, or use the second link to try Universe for free. I hope you all have as much fun creating your dream websites as I did, and don't forget to leave a link to your Universe site in the comments. Happy crafting, everyone! First, I'm going to show you how to make a petal for the larger lily. This is approximately the size of my fingers, or much larger than my fingers, but it really depends on the yarn and hook size you're using. So if you'd like to make this smaller, then use a smaller hook and yarn size. If you'd like to make this bigger, then you can use a larger hook and yarn size. Also, please remember that the floral wire is optional. I would recommend adding it, but if you can't find it, then you really don't have to. Just make sure that your stitches are tight. We're going to start off by making a slip knot, so I wrap it around my fingers, making sort of like an X shape, and use my hook to grab the yarn. There are easier ways of doing this, but that's how I like to do mine. Now we're going to go ahead and chain a total of 25 chains. So you have to make sure that these chains are tight. Don't make them loose, otherwise you'll have holes in your work. And keep count and make a total of 25 chains. Now I'm going to put the pattern up on screen, and there's going to be a bunch of different stitches that we have to do. While you're doing this, please keep in mind that you have to do 1 stitch in every chain. So that means if the pattern says that you have to do 2 single crochets, that means that you have to do 1 single crochet, and then the second single crochet will go into the next chain, not the same chain. So it's basically just 1 stitch in every chain. We're going to skip the very first chain over here, so don't insert anything into this one. and go ahead and start the pattern from the second chain. So the first thing we have to do is insert 2 single crochets. So I'm going to insert my hook into the second chain. I'm going to do my first single crochet. Then go ahead and get your stitch marker and place your stitch marker into this stitch so that we don't lose track of it. Now go ahead and do your second single crochet in the next chain. Next we have to do 2 half double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops that are on your hook to make your first half double crochet. Yarn over again and do your second half double crochet into the next chain. Next we have to do 14 double crochets. To make a double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, then yarn over and pull through the other 2 loops. That's our first double crochet. Now we're going to do 13 more to make a total of 14 double crochets. That's my second. That's my third. Remember that we're doing 1 double crochet into every chain, and we have to do a total of 14 double crochets. So I'll meet you back here once I've done a total of 14 double crochets. Also, please note that it's normal for your work to curl like this. Don't mind it, the curling's gonna go away afterwards. That's what your work will look like once you're done with your 14 double crochets. Next, we have to do 3 half double crochets. So yarn over, and once again, we're going to do 3 half double crochets, 1 in each chain. So that's 1, into the next chain, 2, into the next chain, 3. Now we have to do 2 single crochets. So into the next chain, 1, into the next chain, 2. And now we've reached our very last chain over here. As we're doing the last chain, please pay attention to how I'm holding your work and try to follow along with that so that it'll be easier to continue. In the very last chain, we have to insert 3 single crochets into the same chain. So that means we're going to do our first single crochet, then go back into the same last chain, do your second single crochet, and turn your work this way. Go back into that same last chain and do your third single crochet, like that. So there is going to be a hole, but don't worry, it'll close up later. Now instead of working back down over here, we're going to be working across this way. So do you see these little loops over here that were attached to your chains? We're going to be working into these loops. So you're going to be inserting your hook through these loops over here, the backs of the chains, and that's where we're going to be working. So from now on, instead of inserting 1 stitch into every chain, you're going to be inserting 1 stitch into the backs of every chain. So these loops over here. We're going to be following the exact same pattern, but going the opposite way. So let's repeat. I'm going to insert my hook into this first loop over here, the one that comes after my last chain. And I'm also going to be working over this end over here. So we have to do 2 single crochets. That's my first single crochet. Gonna go into the next loop and do my second single crochet. Now we have to do 3 half double crochets. So I'm going to insert my hook into the next loop. That's my first half double crochet, into the next loop. That's my second. And then into the next loop, that's going to be my third half double crochet. That's what your work will look like so far. Once again, we have to do 14 double crochets. So each of the double crochets will go into 1 loop. So into the next 14 loops, you have to do 1 double crochet. I'm trying to explain it in as many different ways as I can, just so that it's easier for you to get if you don't get it the first time. So this is going to be my first double crochet, into the next loop, my second double crochet, into the next loop, my third double crochet, and go ahead and continue until you've done 14 double crochets in total. And there we go, that's what your work will look like after you've done 14 double crochets. Now we have to do 2 half double crochets, so we're doing the same thing. We're inserting our hook into the loop. That's my first half double crochet. That's my second, and now we only have to do 2 more single crochets to end this first part, I guess, of the petal. That was my first single crochet, and I'm just going to show you what this will look like. So I've still got 2 loops left, but don't worry, this could be that turning chain that we skipped at the beginning. So I wouldn't be too worried if you have an extra loop left here, it's completely fine, but please remember that stitch count is very important for this, so you have to make sure that you've done the right number of stitches that we just did all the way around. Now we're going to be building on top of this to make the petal a little bit wider. So we're going to insert our hook into this marked stitch over here, the very first single crochet that we did. So go ahead and insert your hook into that stitch so we can start the next part. Now if you're using a wire, go ahead and get that. If you're not using a wire, just pretend that there's no wire here. Insert your wire under your hook, but your yarn on top of it. So the first thing that we have to do is a single crochet increase. Now an increase is when you insert 2 of the same stitches inside one stitch. So that means that we have to do 2 single crochets inside the same stitch over here. So let's do our first single crochet, 1, and go back into that same stitch and do your second single crochet. So that's how you're going to make a single crochet increase, by inserting 2 single crochets into the same stitch. After you're done with the increase, we have to do 2 single crochets. So remember, if it doesn't say increase, then for 2 single crochets you have to do 1 in each stitch. So that basically means you have to do 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So that's going to be 1, and in the next stitch 2. Now we have to do 2 half double crochets. So in the next stitch 1, and in the next stitch 2. Then we have to do 1 double crochet. So in the next stitch, that's going to be 1 double crochet. Now we have to do a double crochet increase. That means that in the next stitch we have to insert 2 double crochets into that same stitch. So that's going to be 1. Then go back into that same stitch and do your second double crochet to make your double crochet increase. Now we have to do 4 double crochets. That means that in the next 4 stitches you have to do 1 double crochet. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once again, we have to do a double crochet increase. That means that in the next stitch you have to do 2 double crochets into that same stitch. That's going to be 1. Go back into that same stitch and do your second double crochet. Now we have to do 5 double crochets, so that means that in the next 5 stitches you're going to do 1 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's what your work will look like so far. Now we have to do 3 half double crochets. So in the next stitch, that's going to be 1. In the next stitch, 2. And in the next stitch, 3. Then we have to do 4 single crochets. So that means that in the next 4 stitches, we have to do 1 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the pattern seems complicated at first, but once you understand and you get the hang of it, the petals will be really fun and repetitive to make. Now we're done with one side of the petal, so I'm just going to turn my work this way because the next step is a little bit different. So in the next stitch, you have to first do a single crochet. So go into the next stitch and do 1 single crochet. Then you're going to chain 2. Go back into that same stitch and do a slip stitch. So to do a slip stitch, you're going to grab the yarn and pull that same loop through the other one on your hook like that. Now go back through that same stitch once again and do another single crochet through it. And that's what's going to make the little point for your petal. Now we're going to be working down this side, and the pattern is going to be the exact same. It's just going to be switched the opposite way. So we're going to start off by doing 4 single crochets. So remember how we ended this with 4 single crochets? Now we're going to repeat this. So we're going to do 4 single crochets down here. 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to do 3 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and then we've basically got the same pattern again. After this, you're going to do 5 double crochets, then a double crochet increase, then 4 double crochets, double crochet increase, and then keep following the pattern until you come back over here. Then I'll show you what to do next. So right now I'm finishing up my last single crochet. And there we go, we finished the other side of the petal as well. Now to end this up, we're going to do a single crochet increase in this last stitch over here. So that means you're going to do 1 single crochet, then go back into that same stitch and do another single crochet. Now I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch and do a slip stitch like that, chain 1, get my scissor and cut the yarn and pull to fasten off my work, and there you go, you'll be all done with the petal. If you have wires, you can twist them up like this, and there you go. Before the assembly section of the video, there's also a part where I show you how to hide this end with your needle, so you can go ahead and skip to that. Now I'm going to show you how to make a petal for the smaller lily. For this, once again, you have the option of using a floral wire or not. I recommend using the floral wire if you want to make this lily for a bouquet. This will help your flower hold shape, so this is a petal that I made using the floral wire inside. But if you're making a flower hair clip with the smaller version of the lily, then you don't need to use a wire. So these are the petals that don't have any wires in them, and they're still curling like petals. I'm going to start by making a slip knot. This is how I like to do mine. Now we're going to go ahead and chain 15. So remember to keep count and keep your chains nice and tight. Please don't make them too loose. If you're using a wire, you can go ahead and get it, and if you're not, then you can skip ahead. I'm going to put the pattern up on screen, and remember that you have to insert each of the stitches one in each chain. So if it says 2 single crochets, that means that you have to do 1 single crochet and then another single crochet in the next chain, not 2 single crochets in the same chain. So it's all 1 stitch in each chain. We're going to start by skipping the very first chain that's the closest to our hook, so we're not going to insert anything here. Instead, you're going to insert your hook into the second chain from your hook like that. Get your wire if you're using it, the hook goes under and the yarn stays on top. Then we're going to do our first single crochet. Go ahead and insert your hook into the next chain, and you're going to do your second single crochet. Then you're going to yarn over and you're going to do your first half double crochet into the next chain. And then your second half double crochet into the chain after that. Now we have to do 5 double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain, and make your first double crochet, then insert your hook into the next chain. Do your second double crochet into the next chain. That's your third into the next chain. That's your fourth into the next chain, and that's going to be our 5th and last double crochet. Now we have to do 2 more half double crochets, so insert your hook into the next chain. That's going to be your first half double crochet. Insert your hook into the next chain. That's going to be your second half double crochet. Now we have to do 2 single crochets, so go into the next chain, 1 single crochet, and then into the next chain as well to make your second single crochet. So we did 1 stitch in every chain, we didn't skip any of them. Now we're going to complete this side of the petal by inserting 3 single crochets into this last chain. So 3 single crochets into the same last chain. Let's do our first single crochet. If you're using a wire, you can bend that out. Then I'm going to do my second single crochet into the same chain, and then as I'm working, I'm slowly turning my work to the other side. So by the time I've done my 3rd single crochet into the last chain, my chains are now facing this way while my stitches are facing down. This is very important because now we have to work into these loops of the chains. Going to repeat the same pattern that we did on this side, but the opposite way over here. So now you're going to insert your hook into the loops, the back loops of the chains that are at the bottom, and you're going to repeat the pattern. So we're going to do 1 single crochet, then insert your hook into the next loop. That's going to be your second single crochet. Now we have to do 2 half double crochets to go into the next loop. So go ahead and follow the pattern until you reach all the way down. I'm going to show you one more time exactly where I'm inserting my hook. So these loops right over here. So you're going to insert your hook into these loops as you're working all the way down by following the pattern. Right now I'm doing my very last single crochet that's in the pattern. So I'm inserting my hook into the last loop right over there. And I'm going to do my last single crochet. Stretch it out a little bit, and that's what your petal should look like. To end your work, you can insert your hook into that very first single crochet that you made at the beginning. and then you're going to slip stitch through it like this. So slide the yarn through the stitches to slip stitch, then chain 1 so we can fasten off. Get your scissor, cut, pull, and tighten. And that's how you can make a petal that's a little bit smaller. Go ahead and make a total of 6 petals for the lily. Next, I'm going to show you how to crochet a leaf for your flower. This is pretty big. It's about the size of my finger or a little bit longer. If you're looking for a smaller leaf, then I do have a smaller version in my crochet rose tutorial that you can check out. Once again, you have the option of using a floral wire, which I highly recommend because then you can shape the leaf to stay in whatever position you like when you're making a flower bouquet. But once again, it's not necessary because your yarn will curl in the way that leaves do regardless of how you make it. You're going to start off by making a slip knot. After making your slip knot, you're going to chain 25, and you have to make sure that all of these chains are really tight, so please don't make them loose, and keep count to make sure that you have a total of 25 chains. Now, if you're going to be using a wire, go ahead and get that before you start working. So the pattern is going to be up on screen, and we're going to be following that along, inserting 1 stitch into every chain. We're going to skip this very first chain over here, and we're going to start by inserting our hook into the second chain over here. So insert your hook, and then if you're using your wire, go ahead and grab that. Keep your hook under the wire and the yarn on top. We're going to start by doing 2 single crochets, so that is going to be my first single crochet. Then I'm going to insert my hook into the next chain, and I'm going to do my second single crochet. Now we have to do 2 half double crochets, so yarn over, go into the next chain. That's going to be my first half double crochet. Yarn over again, go into the next chain. That's going to be my second half double crochet. Now we have to do 2 double crochets, so yarn over into the next chain. That's my first double crochet. Go into the next chain, and that is going to be my second double crochet. Now we have to do 12 triple crochets. If you've never done a triple crochet before, you basically have to yarn over twice like that, and you're going to insert your hook into the next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. Then you're going to have quite a few loops on your hook. So you're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops again, and yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops, and that is going to be your triple crochet. Now we have to do this 11 more times. So yarn over twice, go into the next chain, do your second triple crochet, yarn over twice, go into the next chain, do your third triple crochet, and keep going until you've done a total of 12 triple crochets. Now we have to do 2 double crochets, so we're going to repeat that. That's my first double crochet, and then my second double crochet. Now we have to do 2 half double crochets, so once again, I'm going to do my first half double crochet, and then my second, and now you're going to have just 2 chains remaining, and in these last 2 chains over here you're going to do 2 single crochets. So 1 and my second single crochet, and that's going to be the first side of your leaf all complete. Now hold your work this way, because into this very last chain over here we have to insert 2 more single crochets so that we can start working on the other side. So go back through that same last chain, do your second single crochet, and then back into that same chain again, but this time hold your work this way and do your third single crochet. So now your work will be facing this way. Now we're going to be inserting our hook through these loops over here, so the backs of the chains. So do you see 1 loop, second loop? That's where you're going to be inserting your hook now. Repeat the same pattern all the way down. So we're going to do 2 single crochets. That's going to be 1. And look where I'm inserting my hook, right into the loop. And 2. And we're basically going to repeat the same pattern all the way down. So after you're done with 2 single crochets, you're going to do 2 half double crochets. Then after that, you're going to do 2 double crochets. After that, you're going to do 12 triple crochets. And you're just going to repeat the pattern that's on screen all the way down. So one more time, I'm inserting my hook right here into this middle loop. So let's do this slowly. I'm going to be doing my first double crochet, so yarn over and insert my hook into the loop, going through the loop of the chain, and then doing my stitch like normal. Do this all the way down. I'm completing my very last single crochet for this pattern right over here. And that's what your leaf will look like. Now remember that if you don't have the same stitch count, please don't panic. It's very easy to accidentally miss some loops. Just keep going or insert 2 stitches into the same loop to make up for the wrong stitch count. Or just completely skip that stitch. It doesn't really matter since leaves can be all different shapes. To end your work, you're going to insert your hook into that very first single crochet that we did at the beginning of starting the leaf, and you're going to slip stitch in that stitch. Then you're going to chain 1 so we can fasten off, cut the yarn, pull and tighten, and you're all done with the leaf. I recommend making at least 2 leaves for a larger lily and 1 for the smaller one. After you're done crocheting the petals and leaves, here's how you're going to weave in the ends to hide these tails. So for some of them, as I was working, I just worked on top of them. So for those, you can just cut them. But for the one that's left behind after we fastened off, you can get your needle and insert the yarn into the needle. Fasten it with a little knot. Turn your work to the back side and you can insert your needle through the stitches at the back to hide the yarn. So I'm going to go through wherever my needle gets space. Just going to pull the yarn through to hide it at the back side. And you can do this for the leaves, you can do this for the larger petal. It applies to all of the pieces that you're making for your flower. So just try to weave this in with your needle through quite a bunch of stitches until you can't really tell where the yarn is anymore. And then once you think you've done enough, just pull it a little bit and then get your scissor and cut the extra. And that's how you can hide your tails and make a neat little petal or leaf. Now I'm going to show you how to make these little center details. I used a thick floral wire for this. You can also use a thinner wire if you don't have 2 sizes. We're going to start by tying a knot just to secure the yarn onto the wire. And now you're going to start wrapping the yarn around the wire like this. There's no specific measurement that I have in mind. I've made all of mine different sizes, so I just keep wrapping until it's about this length. I'm going to compare it to my fingers right now. So it's something like this big or this long. And then once that's done, I just bend it this way. And I twist it so that it doesn't move. And then I'm going to tie a knot to secure this in place. Then go ahead and get your green yarn and we're going to repeat the same process. So first I'm going to tie a knot to secure the green yarn onto the wire. Then I'm going to hold onto the ends like this and I'm going to start wrapping the green yarn around the wire. I'm just going to cut all of this extra yarn off. There's my glue. I'm just going to wrap around it so it sticks. Hold it in place so it dries like that. And then I'm just going to cut the extra off. And there you go, you're all done. So for the smaller lily, I'd recommend making 3, and then for the larger lily, you can make up to 5 of these. Now it's time for my least favorite part of this project, the assembly. So go ahead and get your glue, whether you're using hot glue or super glue. The steps for assembly are going to be the same whether you're making a larger lily or if you're making the smaller lily. I'm going to use the smaller lily as an example for demonstration, but remember you have to do the same steps even if you're making the larger lily. But if you're making the flower hair clip, you just have to get your glue and glue all of the petals that you made, including the middle part, onto a regular hair clip, and then you'll be done. So the flower clip is much easier to assemble than the actual flowers. You just have to glue them all together and slightly overlap them like that. Now here's how to assemble the actual flower. So I'm going to get the stick that I want to use as well as the middle part, and I'm first going to tie a knot with my green yarn or whatever color you're using for the stem around the middle part. I probably should have looked up what these are called before recording. So I'm just gonna tighten a knot so that these stay in place and don't move around too much. I'm gonna double knot it just to make it extra secure. Once that's done, I'm just gonna curve these out a little bit. Then I'm gonna get my stick and I'm going to poke it right through the middle. And now I'm gonna get hot glue and I'm going to hot glue them in this position. So I'm gonna put glue right down the middle, right over there, and just hold them in place like that so that they stick together onto the stick. And then I wrapped the green yarn even more around the bottom of it just so that it would get extra secure. The next step is to just get all of your petals and glue them in the position that you want them to. If you have a wire, then you can practice the placement beforehand. You're just gonna put some glue here on the petal and you're going to stick it a little bit below the middle part. So please don't stick it exactly like that. A little bit below, just there, and then hold it and press. Then go ahead and do this all the way around. So you might need to do some overlapping. That means that some of the petals are going behind each other like this, and then you're gonna glue it. And you're gonna do this all the way around to fit all of your 6 petals. So a little bit of glue on the green part and a little bit of glue on the other petal. Bend this a little bit down and then move it around until it sticks in the position that you want it to. Here we go again, a little bit of glue on the petal, a little bit on the green part, and I am running out of space, so I have to make them stick a little bit closer together. Ooh, burned myself, ouch. I really should have gotten those gloves. And there you go, that's what it'll look like. Now it's time for my favorite part, wrapping the yarn around the stem. First, I just like taking the yarn and making a knot to secure it in place, just so that it doesn't move around while I start the wrapping. First, I'm going to start wrapping it around the top part of the flower section just to try and cover up all of these wires a little bit. So I'm just trying to wrap around the wires to make it a little bit neater first. And remember that you have to wrap tightly. Keep wrapping and wrapping and wrapping and wrapping. And slowly start moving downwards. So you have to be really quick with this. Otherwise your yarn will start to come off. You can put just a little bit of hot glue on the stem. I like doing it section by section because the glue does dry really quickly. So I have to move my hand really fast to make sure that I get to that part before the glue starts to dry. And I'm just going to repeat this process all the way down. I'm also going to insert a clip from when I was making the larger lily of how you can add your leaves in between this, so just hang on for that. After you're done wrapping, you can just cut the extra yarn off, and there you go, you're all done.